Hey there, Bruins fans! Welcome back to BNG Hockey, where it's always black and gold. NHL trade deadline is coming up in just a few weeks, so I figured I'd put together all of the guys that the Bruins are rumored to be interested in. Let's get started. Gonna start things off here with a power forward I know a lot of Bruins fans would love to have. It's forward Josh Anderson of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, he's been injured for a majority of the season. He's injured right now, but should be coming back any game now. He puts the puck in the back of the net, and he hits people, and he's a right shot right winger. Sounds perfect, doesn't he? Well, I think the price might be a little too high for the Bruins. I don't know if it would be a first-round pick, but it's looking like it would be a second-round pick and probably a prospect, and the Bruins are definitely not alone in the bidding war for this guy. But I would think he would be a nice fit if the Bruins are able to acquire him. Moving on to the Anaheim Ducks and forward Ondrej Kase. I really like this kid. I think he has a lot of upside. He's only 24 years old. I think he could be a 25 to 30 goal scorer in the future. If the Bruins can acquire this guy, he's signed for this year and next year. I really hate having rental players who just walk away. This kid could come in and grow and be a part of your group, and then you can sign him long term. He's signed at a really reasonable cap hit of just over $2 million, so that would be for this year and next. And he's been injured throughout this season, but that's okay, because if you wanted to negotiate a new deal with him, it's a lot easier because he wasn't able to put up points this season. I think that this is a guy who you can snag from a struggling team. It's already been reported that they could probably get him with a third-round pick and a prospect like an Oscar Steen. I would do that deal in a heartbeat for a nice right-shot winger who can play with speed and put the puck in the back of the net. You don't have as much physicality as you would with a Josh Anderson, but that's okay if he's putting up points. Staying in California, we're going to go to San Jose, where they're interested in not one, but two players. Big defenseman Brenden Dillon, and old friend and Bruins draft pick, Jumbo Joe Thornton. Let's start things off with Dillon. Everybody knows that you need to load up your back end on a playoff run. There's always injuries, and the more depth you have, the better. If the Bruins are going to make this move, it would be for that fact. I think that Dillon would maybe make it in the lineup over a guy like a Lozon or a Moore, and maybe even over Matt Grzelcyk, but he doesn't bring that much speed. He definitely brings physicality. The man can hit, and he wouldn't be afraid to fight if he needed to. So I could see the Bruins bringing this guy in if they can get him pretty cheap, just to have some more depth on the blue line and be a little bit of a tougher team. Jumbo Joe Thornton, no thanks. He's just too slow for me. He's a big guy. He can't even score anymore. He's not even that physical because he can barely even catch the other guys. Unless you can get him for David Backes straight up, I think I'm going to pass. But the Bruins aren't done shopping in California just yet. We're going to talk about the LA Kings and Tyler Toffoli. This is one of those guys who has always been coming to the Bruins. Every year there is so many trade rumors. I've talked about him on this channel before. I'm sure you've heard about his numbers. He's not having a bad season with the Kings, but he's going to be one of the big fish in this year's trade deadline, and I don't think you can get him without giving up a first-round pick. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Bruins do give them a call, but I think they might end up getting outbid by another team on this one. Now, this is a rumor that was heating up a few weeks ago and has kind of cooled down, but I figured I'd throw it in there because he's still available. It's the Chicago Blackhawks' Brandon Saad. The Bruins and the Blackhawks were scouting each other quite a bit. The Blackhawks GM actually went to Bruins games. That very rarely happens, and it's crazy to think who they're interested in. The Blackhawks were looking at John Moore. Now, the Blackhawks have been pretty banged up on their back end, and Moore is locked up for a couple more years on a pretty solid number. I know not many Bruins fans really like him, but he's not that bad, and he's a capable NHL defenseman who's signed to term at a low cap hit. That is pretty valuable in the league. So if the Bruins can really do a deal centered around John Moore and get a winger like Brandon Saad, I would absolutely do that, but I'm not convinced that the Blackhawks are going to trade Saad. If you remember, they traded him to the Blue Jackets and then got him back from the Blue Jackets, and I just don't know how many times you can trade a guy and then try and trade for him back. I feel like you should just hang on to him and stop making the mistake of trading him again. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard that Backes is not going to report to the AHL. I think some of that is him not wanting to play there, and some of that is so he doesn't get injured and the Bruins can try and shop him. There's not many teams that would be willing to take on Backes. It is rumored that maybe the Ducks, who we talked about earlier, could be interested, so maybe you ship him along with whoever you get, like a Kase or a Raquel or a Silverberg. I'm not really sure what that package would look like, but a team that is definitely at the bottom of the basement and willing to take on big contracts is the Ottawa Senators. And they also have a player that the Bruins are interested in J.G. Pageau. Pageau is having an excellent season. He would be a rental, but a lot of teams are interested in this guy. So if you're going to trade for him, you're probably thinking first round pick, even though he's not an elite level talent. The prices are just so high at the deadline. But as we saw before with the Maple Leafs trading Patrick Marleau, it took a first round pick just to get rid of the contract. So if you can package together a first round pick and David Backes and get J.G. Pageau in return, it would just be like getting any other rental, and you get the Backes money off the books, because the sooner you do that, the better. It gives the Bruins so much flexibility, not only for this year, but in the future with $6 million back on the cap. So I'd definitely look into making a deal with the Senators so you can bring in a rental and unload Backes. Moving from one bad team to another, we're now going to talk about the New Jersey Devils. They are really struggling, and they are definitely going to be in sell mode. Now, they have Kyle Palmieri, who's signed for this year and next, so he wouldn't be a rental, and that's always a plus. He's at a really reasonable cap hit and is more than capable of being a 30-goal scorer. He would fit really nicely with Bergeron and Marchand or Krejci and DeBrusk, so the Bruins are absolutely interested in this guy. But again, he's going to be one of those top guys along with Toffoli, so the prices would be high. They also have Wayne Simmonds. A lot of people forget that he signed a one-year deal there, and it hasn't really worked out. He only has 5 goals, but if the Bruins can get him real cheap and throw him in the second or third line, I know that he's still physical, and I know that the Bruins have been interested in him for a while now. So, a couple players to think about there in New Jersey. And last but certainly not least, it's hometown boy, Chris Kreider. If we're talking big fish at the deadline, this is the biggest fish. Almost every team, from the Blues to the Avalanche to the Maple Leafs to the Bruins, are interested in Chris Kreider. So the Bruins are definitely going to have to start things off with a first-round pick. What comes after that, I'm not really sure. But I wouldn't go crazy overpaying for this guy, because I'm not too sure the Bruins would be able to re-sign him. And he's a natural left wing, and the Bruins really need some help on the right wing. There's plenty of right wings that we just went over that I think would be a better fit, even though I would love to have an elite level guy, an all-star, in Chris Kreider. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Which one of these players would you be interested in? Are there other players you think the Bruins should go after? Leave that down below in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big like, and if you haven't already, subscribe.